In today's video, I'm going to show you the easiest way to catch and cook one of Australia's best tasting fish. Now the fish we'll be chasing today is the Australian flathead, but don't worry if that's not the fish you're catching. Both this technique and the beer batter will work on just about any fish all over the world. Now as the first part of the world's easiest catch and cook beer batter fish, I want to show you what I think is the world's easiest way to catch a fish. Now all I've got here is a dropper loop going down to a 15-gram sinker at the end, which is a ½ ounce, and then got the little loop coming off, and I've got a little bait keeper hook. And on that, I've got a 4-inch jiggle curltail worm. This is fishing with a lure like it's bait, without even working the lure. So all we do is drop it down, wait for it to get to the bottom. The line stops coming out, you know that it's on the bottom. Give it a little bit of extra slack. Throw the bail closed and let it sit. And now we're gonna drift, and with the movement of that boat, with me walking, with the waves hitting the boat, it will work that lure up and down, and that little curltail worm will just sort of flutter and flutter and flutter, just as if somebody is working it as a traditional lure. We're gonna double up. I got a second one doing the same thing. Right next to each other is just fine. Just keep them separated enough that they don't tangle. Wait for it to get to the bottom, a little bit of extra slack. That should be good. And I'll just let those drift behind me, drift behind the boat. And then I will stand on this side of the boat and I will cast in the direction that we're drifting. I'm using the same thing, 4-inch curltail worm by Jiggle. I've got a 1/4 ounce jig head. And all I'm doing is just casting this out as far as I can with the wind in the direction that the boat is drifting. Flip your bail over, reel up the slack. Just slowly turn the reel over as you watch the line fall in the water. As soon as you get a big belly in the line like that, I know it's at the bottom. I can take up the slack, give it a couple tugs, and then just let it get to the bottom again. It's a pretty easy way to fish. You multiply your chances by having a couple of lazy sleeper rods behind you, and depending on the conditions on the day, often the sleeper rods will outfish the people actually working the lure. Today it's quite calm. There's not a lot of movement, not a lot of action in the water. We got a slow drift, so I think that I will probably outfish the sleeper rods, but you never know. Oh, that was a hit. All right, I gotta pay attention. Doesn't feel too bad. Feels like a flathead. Probably similar to the last couple we've kept, I'm thinking. Now I'm running that drag reasonably light because I'm running that 6-pound leader, which I'm really just running because I was fishing for brim previously and have been too lazy to change it over. But when you got a light leader, you want to go really light on it, be real soft on the fish. It's a bit of a better one, whatever it is. Oh boy. Well, I kind of wish I had 8-pound or 10-pound leader on now. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, bummer. This could be a problem. We'll try and wear it out, whatever it is. I think it's a flathead. It's fighting like a flathead. Oh, it's a really nice flathead. Oh, it's a beautiful flathead for Port Phillip Bay. Oh yeah, that's a really good fish. Jeez, that is a really good fish. That might even be one I'm putting back. Let's see how big it is. I don't like to keep some of the bigger fish, particularly in Port Phillip Bay. There aren't a lot of big flathead around Port Phillip. This will be one of the bigger ones you'll get, I'd say. All right. Yeah, that's a pretty big, it's a big fish for Port Phillip. Wow, that's a chunk. That is a 49 centimeter flathead. Oh, that's a big fish for Port Phillip. That is a big fish. Oh, yep. Yep. Oh, that's halfway decent, whatever it is. I think it's a flathead. Feels like a good flatty. Oh, maybe barely legal. Oh, he's probably legal. He's gonna be close. Oh, he'll be legal. Okay. 32, so that's a legal fish. So we'll put him in the cooler. Probably need about 5 that size to actually make a meal for 5 people. In doing the beer batter actually adds a lot of volume to the cooking, or to the meal. So you don't need huge fish, but 32 centimeter flathead is not a stack of meat on them. Now this does happen sometimes when I'm fishing these sleeper rods like this. Depending on the day and the amount of movement we've got, how much the boat is rocking, those rods will outfish the actively fishing the lure with the jig head. Or at least they can. I would have thought today is a bit too still for that. Usually it's when there's a bit of a chop and the boat's sort of rocking a bit more, it really gets those lures moving. But with the little worms, they've got really good action. It takes almost no movement to work them. So even just me walking around in the boat, sort of causing those rod tips to go up and down, that will often be enough to bring a bite. Oh, fish on. How do you like that? The number of times that happens, I tell you, where you just cast it out and then it's sitting in the rod holder and then you go pick it up after finishing a nice coffee or putting some sunscreen on and there's a fish on. Oh, it's just such a common thing. All right, he'll be good enough. He'll be size. All right. See if we get a couple more. We can go home and make the family some dinner. Now, I better check that leader. I'm only using 6-pound leader. Seems all right. Doesn't look like he roughed it up too much. I had the drag set pretty loose, which you really need to do when you're using a 6-pound leader. So he didn't get too much grip on that leader with his teeth. And so that looks all right. I think that's good to go for another fish. And to be honest, 6-pound is really way lighter than I need to be using for a flathead in the bay here. I probably should be using 8 to 10. Oh, are you kidding? That's hilarious. Oh, well, okay, so. So this is how you catch fish. You just cast it out and then you put the rod in the rod holder. You talk to yourself and then you reel the fish in. It's all quite simple. You've seen it here first. This will be undersized. Oh, that's funny. Interestingly, the fish we have now caught today have all been caught when the rod wasn't even in my hand. So that just gives you an idea how slow the fish want it. It also gives you an idea of how effective the lure is, that you really don't even have to be working it to catch fish. Now, another thing I should mention, I'm using 8-pound braid on this rod because that's what I like for soft plastics and working lures. But on the lazy sleeper rods back here, I'm running 10-pound monofilament. I like there to be some give in the line. That way, when the fish takes the hook and starts to swim off, it doesn't give him resistance straight away. And as he starts to run, the bend of the rod and the give in the line should actually set that hook for me. Now, when I do get a fish on or I see a bend in the line, I will pick up the rod and give it a jerk like this just to make sure that the hook is set. But for stuff like for bait fishing or for sort of the lazy drift behind fishing like this, or for squid fishing, I like to use monofilament. For casting lures, soft plastics, where I'm casting and retrieving, I like to use braided line. Well, we have reached the moment of truth on the Catch and Cook easiest beer batter on the planet recipe. But first of all, we have to get some oil in the pan. All we want to do is just cover the bottom of the pan with a bit of oil. You can use a fry pan or a shallow pot, or if you've got a Fry Daddy or a dedicated fry cooker, that's even better. We'll just turn that up to full blast to get that heating up. And now for the beer batter recipe. All we need is, oh, very important ingredient, I forgot. It's only a 2-ingredient recipe and I forgot one of the ingredients. A beer, 1 chilled beer, 2 cups of self-raising flour, a mixing bowl, 2 cups of self-raising flour in the mixing bowl, 1 chilled beer in the mixing bowl. I guess I better grab the GoPro out of the, oh boy, that makes him, don't do that. That is disgusting. All you want to do is take a whisk, and you don't need to whisk it up too much. You don't need it completely smooth. You need it fully mixed, but it can still be a bit clumpy. That's okay. We just give that a decent stir. You don't want it completely smooth, and I think that's about it. I don't think I want any more than that. Set that aside. Oh, wait. Oh, forgot one more thing. I mean, you wouldn't be buying just one beer, would you? So, you know, you probably got at least a 6-pack. Now we just wait for the oil to heat up. There is a trick. There is a little trick you can do with the oil to know that if it's ready. If you've got a thermometer, that's better. But you can just take a little piece of bread and you just pull it off and you just throw it in the oil. Now that hasn't sizzled or done anything at all, really. So since that piece of bread is not sizzling or crackling or it's just absorbing oil, we know that oil is not hot enough yet. If the oil is too cool and you put the fish in, the batter and the fish become very oily and absorb the oil. So you want to make sure that that oil is up to temperature. You put the little piece of bread in, you'll see it sort of sizzle and bubble. That means it's ready. It means when you put the fish in the pan, it will quickly cook instead of the oil going in and penetrating the batter and penetrating the fish. So if you have fish from a fish and chip shop, you know it's nice and crunchy and beautiful, and it's not like you bite out of it and oil pours out. If you get the oil up to temperature, the correct temperature, then you're going to get that same sort of texture and sensation on your homemade beer battered fish. Just going to test that again. Little piece of bread. When I throw that in, that is sizzling nicely. So that tells me that we're probably pretty close. Now what I can do is I've got a couple just little pieces here. These were just cut out of the rib cage of the bigger fish I had. I'm going to dip that in the batter. And just give that a try. I think that's pretty close to temperature. It can be very hard to actually maintain the temperature. Ideally, you would have an oil thermometer or a Fry Daddy or some way to really know what the temperature is rather than just throwing pieces of bread in like I do. And you just want to leave that in there until it's golden brown. Flip it over until the other side is golden brown, and then you're good to go. Say that's about right. It's delicious. If you've got a recipe and you want me to do a video with your recipe with a catch and cook or a cook, I'd love to hear from you. Leave it in the comments down below.